I'm Rincey and this is Rincey Reads. On NPR's website last week they posted an article talking about what kids in about middle school, high school are reading. The story basically talked about how kids in high school these days are reading less complex books or are reading below their grade level. There were sort of two sides to this article, the first one being that when choosing their own books, kids in high school usually read below their grade level, reading things that are usually at a middle school grade level. And then the other side to this is the fact that for their required reading, they're assigned books that are easier than, say, kids 20 or 30 years ago or 40 years ago would have been reading. This article bugged me for a couple of reasons. The first one being it's kind of hard enough to get people to read nowadays, and so a lot of times I think it's always bad when you discourage people from reading things that they actually enjoy, especially when it is like leisure reading and it is a required reading for school. But if kids are picking up things that aren't necessarily the most complex novels ever, is that really such a bad thing? Because there are a lot worse things that they could be doing with their free time. And I know a lot of people tend to shame YA or even things like Twilight in terms of options that kids could be reading nowadays, but a lot of times those books are sort of gateway books in terms of introducing people to reading in a way that really pulls them in, and then that draws them into other books and it leads them to other literature, and who knows, maybe one day they'll be reading things that you consider to be proper books or whatever that really means. But I really hate when people discourage anyone from reading. It's reading, just let them read whatever they want to read. Now when it comes to assigned classroom reading, obviously that's something different. I think that unless you're in an accelerated or AP class, obviously those need to be more complex pieces of literature because you're preparing yourself for the AP exam and things like that. So obviously there needs to be some sort of set standard for that. But if you're just taking a regular high school English class, I don't really know how exactly it all works or how schools choose which books get read and things like that. But I think it does need to be a balance between challenging books and more accessible books, I suppose. I think that if you're approaching just your everyday high school English class, there are going to be kids in there who enjoy reading and will read the Jane Austen or Shakespeare or whatever it is that high schoolers are reading in their classes these days. But you also need to assign books that fall into different genres or might not be considered as complex, because some of these kids maybe don't like reading, and that might just be because they haven't found the book that's right for them. I do understand the importance that they're trying to emphasize reading broadly and challenging your minds and things like that, but sometimes we just need to be happy with the fact that people actually do read. One of the quotes that really bothered me in this had someone saying that they do a survey of their class and most people list their favorite genres as being sci-fi, fantasy, horror, and fairy tales. I read that and I was like, what's wrong with that? You're demeaning those genres by assuming that they don't have anything to offer, when in reality those are really great genres that sometimes have really deep meanings in their books. I am very much a proponent of trying to encourage people to read broadly and to try different things, but I think at the same time you need to be careful about completely negating genres just because people tend to have preferences. Like, I know obviously on BookTube there's like this camp of people who really love YA, and then there's this camp of people who really don't like YA, and people act like they're sort of in opposition to each other, but in reality it's just personal preference, and just because you like one genre or you don't like another genre doesn't mean you are negating everything that those genres have to offer. Let me know what you guys think. Tell me about what you guys read in high school. I was in that sort of accelerated AP track in high school, so most of the books that I did read in high school were basically the more classic literature, so to speak. Also, if you happen to be a teacher or librarian, feel free to leave your thoughts on this issue as well. I think it is kind of complex because finding that balance between challenging students and also drawing kids in to actually read is really difficult, because yes, you want to challenge kids with classics, but then again there are a lot of kids who just don't read the books that they're assigned in school and they rely on things like Spark Notes, where if it's a classic there most likely is like a Spark Note or some sort of guide for it online, so you don't even have to read the book in order to know what's going on. So I would love to just get a discussion going down in the comment section. So yeah, that's all I have for now, and thanks for watching.